Hi there, it's me. I'm back again. Somehow I got switched to my other channel, and so am I on Dreamy Dreamland? You know, come on and tell me if I'm here. Am I here? Oh, there's three of you there. Okay. So am I on Dreamland? I kind of had a little trouble with my everything. Again, YouTube and Google and everybody kind of just, kind of put all my accounts and everything in a martini blender and throw it out. Luckily, I'm where next door my internet guru kind of set it all straight. So I guess I'm here. Hey there, Hayden. Right? I'm here on Dreamy Dreamland. Right? Right. So I think I am. I hope I am. Um, I have, as I was telling my friend, I'm from a different time zone. Born in 1950. I mean, I understand this technology. I just can't navigate it that well. And part of it is I can't see, not even touch anything, and it'll send it into disarray. So if you can figure out how to go look at my other, I put on about a 1 hour show before research came on and said, "Hey, why aren't you on Dreamy Dreamland?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't even know. Who knew, right?" Well, I already had breakfast, and now I'm ready for lunch. Yep, yep, good. Here I am. And this morning's show, because here it is, where we're still in the morning, it's 11:56 here. But the basically what I was talking about was it's the secret to happiness, right? Anyone got an idea? Well, that little girl over there, she ain't happy. And why ain't she happy? Why? Because she's not getting any attention. You know, she's not being able to communicate what she wants. All she can do is scream and whine, right? And then her mother slaps her around, and then she sulks, and what I don't understand is that lady has had a table over there for the last hour and a half. I mean, I know why I'm sitting here for a couple hours. Want to talk to you guys and stay out of the cold, and to be next door, right? And the other, somebody put some money in my PayPal account, and I couldn't figure out how, because why doesn't PayPal just, I gave it all the information. I have to go through physically and said, yes, put this in this, Somebody said, oh, well, they may want you to spend it in their thing, and that's why they make you do that. So, holy moly, that's all I can say. So, the secret to happiness is making others happy. That's the secret, right? Alan, hey, buddy. Looking well. Enjoyed yesterday's powwow, especially the Nevada Desert Story. Wow. What a gem. Yep. That was, And the other side of that coin is, so yeah, I had to, and they paid me really well. I mean, I was selling, how I got to New Mexico was, um, I think I was in another story I was telling, taking a Gary Blue, who tried to kill himself, and that's because he came from, Wyoming as a cowboy. He was a really great artist. Went to Cal Arts, became even a better artist. Came to New York. He was really good, and people loved his art and wanted to buy it, but he couldn't talk to people. He wasn't a people person, right? He's very quiet, and he put all his emotion into his paintings, so when he'd have an opening and have to deal with guys who were going to give him 100 grand for a painting, he would get drunk and say really nasty things, and they didn't like that. So, um, that was putting a kibosh on his career. And he was my bud, and so I knew him. And there was a crew of us, of artists. There was Gary, there's Willie, there was Bariah, there was Jody. And then there were a couple other guys who were like Dog Boy, and Detlev, and we were kind of a crew. And the guys who, the painter, the carpenter, the mason, the plumber, they had their own, but any one of us would get a big job, like a restaurant or a big gallery or a big, we would get, tell the owner, they would want us for whatever, because we're all really great at what we did. And we would say, listen, if you like me, if you want me, I would tell the contractor, don't worry about it. We don't, just hire all of us as subs, and we will we will make you look good. You won't even have to be on this job, you know. Just pay us like, each about 3% of what you're going to make, and it'll be well worth your while. And then we'll get you work. Anyway, so we did do that. And after 5 years, we were a team, and we had about 3 or 4 different contractors we worked with pretty much. And we all worked with each other. It was loads of fun. We were buddies. We knew exactly what the other guy wanted. We made the job really, so nobody, no bad feelings, no arguments. We communicated. And again, we were happy because we were making the other folk happy, right? And Gary wasn't happy because, his art, he was a great artist, but his, he kept blowing his success, and he kept having really great girlfriends and then treating them bad, and then they would, dump him. And he tried to commit suicide a couple of times. So the third time he really almost did it, point where he paralyzed his face. And so he basically, I went into, and everybody like dropped him as a friend because he was a downer. But he was, I don't give up on friends. And so went to the hospital when I heard about it, and he was in a coma, and I kept coming back and talking to him in a coma. And then he came out of it, and I said, I brought him some, flowers. The nurse who I got to be buddies with, she called me up when he came out of the coma, and I asked her to show up. And I said, Gary, you got to stop trying to kill yourself. Oh, my life sucks. I'm so miserable. I don't know what happiness. I said, Gary, how long have you known me? He goes, you're my only friend. When Gil's, the only guy who comes, he goes, I was in a coma, and I was dreaming about you talking to me. I said, telling me stories. I said, yeah, because I was right here talking to you, telling you stories, because I wanted you to hold on. So I said, so Gary, how long? Well, I've known you about 5 years. I said, so what happens? We do a big job. We all make a lot of money. And you go away for about 3 months to some foreign land, and then you come back, and we do another job, and we, hang out, and you're here for about 3 to 6 months, and then you go away again. And I said, Gary, how long have you been in New York? He said, about 8 years. I said, when's the last time you left Manhattan? And he goes, 8 years ago. I said, man, you need to go on a vacation. So if you go back, I tell the whole story of the vacation. And right, as soon as he gets out of the hospital, he comes, and I tell you the story where I'm living at, Una Bear Gallery. I tell you that whole story about the all the people who were living in the Hollywood Square. In our gallery, we built little apartments because we had a 30-foot ceiling and about 6,000 square foot space, and we had 6 little apartments because our rent kept going up. And we had a porno filmmaker who was 90 years old making S&M films down the basement, where we'd chain people to the ceiling, and we'd hear the chains and the whips. So that's all part of the story. Very go watch that story.
I know you guys love justice,
and that's why I told you you need to get a dartboard and start throwing the dartboard the numbers, and look at all the old shows, because if you like if you liked yesterday's story, I got 100 of them. 100. Boy, your boyfriend is dressed up.
He's been visiting at the hospital.
But he still dresses up nice. You clean up well, sir.
Thank you.
And your girlfriend's kind of cute too.
Thank
Yeah,
She's my,
yeah,
she's my youngest daughter.
yeah, yeah. Keep waving that. I'm a kidder too. Yes, oh, I can tell. The kidder knows the kidder. So, hey, Twitchy. Um, so again, get that dartboard, throw the darts at the numbers. Go watch the shows. So, how I got into New Mexico was um, I was fixing up a loft that my steel working sculptor, boilermaker buddy, he owned a building on West Broadway. His dad owned it, so he was one of the guys who owned a building on West Broadway who wasn't a millionaire or had an art gallery, right? And so he wanted to make some money, so he was going to turn the floors. He was going to sell the floors for a lot of money to rich people, and just he was following my
Oh, threw me off, Al.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to you ordering that. I turned
Yeah.
around to make sure what you.
So don't I
Yeah.
get a little more spinach than that?
I'll tell him to get you some
Yeah,
more.
okay.
I sure will.
I need another thing of tools.
Okay, I'll get you some of that. And do you want ketchup or anything like that? Do you,
Yeah, ketchup, but I asked for a little brown gravy to.
okay, brown gravy, more spinach.
Uh-huh.
Here's ketchup.
Yeah, ketchup. And tools.
And some silverware.
And extra napkins. Yep, you know me.
Here's some extra napkins.
You know me. Thank you, dear.
Are you threw me off?
Yep. Well, this is my lunch.
Okay.
Right. I had breakfast.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? That's right.
Right.
I'm just used to you eating, I guess, breakfast.
Yeah. Well, I'm spending the day.
Yeah, she's not a little bit on
Anyway, so I had a girlfriend who best of buds. We had gone to Juilliard. I was a designer, and she was a dancer, really great dancer. Best lead. And so again, I would work hard and then go take a vacation someplace. And, she went on a few of them, but she, me, when I go out, I don't go for a week. I go for months or a year. And she had her career as a dancer. So anyway, pretty much for about 10 years until she got married, I would go away. She'd get another boyfriend. And so we
hasn't had a day off in 2 weeks, so she asked me to cover for this morning. So I've been here since 5, and I've been playing to him. And I really don't
So,
know what to do, but we're trying to do it.
I'd go away. She'd get a new boyfriend. I'd come back. She's pretty picky, so she would dump them. And then I was always the guy who was like best friend with benefits. And we had the best of times. We both had crazy sensibilities and sense of humors and interests. And she loved all the stuff I was interested in. Because her dad was a rocket scientist. And I was an artist, rocket scientist.
Okay, we're actually out of the
And
Okay, so you just.
I was a real camper. I would camp in Central Park. We'd go up to Bear Mountain. I mean, she just loved my nature. But she was always looking for that guy. And so when I would go away, we'd give her a chance to try a new guy. And so for about 10 years, we had this very great kind of relationship. And I just love making the women I'm with happy. And I could make her happy. So, I mean, really, once she got married, I still stayed her friend. And the guy she married was a great guy. And he understood the relationship and that we were best of friends. Then got married, the benefit part kind of conked out. And, but he was not jealous, He enjoyed my company too. And we go out, I take him to clubs. We were great dancing. crew. But before that, before she got married, one of these times, so I came back, and for about a 5 year period in Soho, I gave up the big spaces I had and made some money. I went off and lived other places for a nice long period of time. And the it's one place where my friend was fixing these lofts up and selling the key costs to these folks and still charging them rent. And then I would fix them up. I put risers and Jody put in the plumbing and the rich people showed up. And I'm a set designer, so I would draw these pretty paintings of what their new digs could be. This is way before CAD CAM and computers. Anyway, so we were doing this. And we sold to this one guy who was what I call a trustafarian. He never worked a day in his life. His daddy, he had millions of dollars in the trust. He had a place up in, he went back to the country in Vermont. And he had his Volvo and his Audi. And his Mercedes. He had 3 cars. And he'd wear them like watches. Anyway, he was kind of a jerk. But he was a photographer. And he knew of my skills of photography. He tried to study with Lisette Modell. And he came to one of our little salons. And she looked at his stuff and she just laughed and said, "You can go now." Anyway, so I knew he had a lot of money. And so I said to him, this friend of mine, he's got this building on West Broadway. You want a place in Soho? You buy one of those. And I'll fix it up for you. So, the deal made. And, he gave me like 20 grand to start, get materials, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm working on a whole bunch of other things. I'm working for George & George. They have a gigantic factory space and out there in the Bronx. So that was one of my storage depots. And I had a friend of mine over on the Bowery. And we had a little business with Olga called Urban Architecture. And he was a fire guy who got beat up. Couldn't fight fires, but he was teaching people. So he would burn buildings down in the South Bronx, which were really people's houses in the 19th century. And he went to school. And where I met him was at Cooper Union. He was going to school to be an architect. So before he would burn it, Olga and him and me and my friend with the big truck would go up there, and he would have his boys from the fire department rip out bathtubs and doors and mahogany this and teak that and floors and doors and jambs and you name it. So this guy who had all of this really stuff, and so it wasn't really costing me anything, very little, but I was charging him what if he wanted that stuff, he could see what a mahogany this would cost. Anyway, so I kind of move everything on site. Well, I demo out the space. I move everything on site. I start roughing things in, putting up steel studs, putting up the sheetrock, and within 3 weeks, I get the place 55% done. I got all the plumbing in, bathtub, jacuzzi. I don't have the tile down. I don't have everything finished. The kitchen's in. I got some plywood, for countertops, but pretty much all the materials there. I'm going to mill everything and build everything out with mahogany and teak and whatever. Right? Anyway, so one day, and I tell him it's going to take 6 months, so I can live there. Right? and take my time, right? Anyway, the whole time, the guy who owns the building, my buddy downstairs, was the boiler business, tells me what a jerk this guy was. I hate that I made the deal with this guy. He's terrible. I said, yeah, but you charged him like 10 times more than anybody else. He goes, still not worth it. The guy's a real jerk. And he goes, I really don't like him. If I could, I would back out tomorrow, right? Anyway, so we are, Beth, I, and we are dancing with Robert Wilson, the guy who did Letters to Queen Victoria, Einstein on the Beach, who made the atonal music guy, Philip Glass, famous. And Robert was another trust support. Never worked a day in his life. And he had millions, and he went through all his money. And Chris Knowles was his cousin. And he was autistic, and he had every kind of thing going on in him. And I'd already been working with people like that. We were doing experiments with electromagnetics with my buddies at Psychotronic Society. And Robert said, listen, I need somebody to watch Chris. I'll pay you, a couple $100 a week if you babysit him basically 24/7. So first I took Chris and he said, he can't stand going out. Well, no, he couldn't stand going out with Robert. But when I took him out and showed him things that he was interested in and let him be walking down the street, he wanted to stare through a window for an hour. That was not a problem. Did that. Then I kind of took him into my laboratory and put him into a sensory deprivation tank that was surrounded by a Faraday cage. And when he came out, he was salient. He could talk. He could, because all the noise in his head quieted down.
Yesterday was Halloween. Now they're already playing for you. It's crazy how fast it goes.
Only in America. Isn't it a great place? Yay! Money. That's all that counts. Forget my soul. Doesn't exist. I'd sell my mother for a parking spot. So Chris starts saying this poetry out of his mouth. That's friggin' believable. And I'm a couple of months and I'm growing my eyebrows like. Anyway, and he still has that video on his channel of my grandparents, which not a problem. It's all good. So, if you saw that video, he found one of my tapes. And what I've done for years was, because I was doing radio shows and TV shows. And I was at this TV show on Manhattan Cable called Potato Wolf. Go Google it. And, at the height, we had more people watching our show. We had a 90-minute show on Thursday. And it started with Coca Crystal, was a friend of mine who went to NYU and she was a brilliant businesswoman, and her business was delivering marijuana as baked goods, right? So she had a cookie store, and you would call this number, and that person would call somebody else who would then call the delivery boy. Delivery boy would go to the secret bakery, get the order, bicycle it, and deliver it straight to them. Right? She didn't have to fuss with anybody, nobody hanging out on the corner. And so it was really successful for years. She was a friend of my friend Lester, who had the Gray Rabbit. You may have heard of the Gray Rabbit. It was the hippie bus lines. And he started a religion, the World Community Church, right? So everything was tax free. And he had churches he had one in Boston, one in New York, one in Philly, DC, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, where else? Other places, a couple places in Texas, um, Seattle, LA, Malibu, and San Francisco. Um, so the bus line, he had people in it, and whenever he never got stopped, and it was, so having a church, we had a bus. He'd have to get licenses, state, federal, but being a church, no. So he had buses looking like church buses. In the 8-track, when stuck their head in, he'd push in the Bible music and everybody. But mostly because he had taken the magic bus from Istanbul to London, and that's where he got the idea. So, all this real estate, tax-free religion, and so Coca was his friend. I knew Coca from NYU. Coca introduced me to Lester, and he bought a building right next to where I was living, and he nearly choked me out with the diesel fumes. He had no idea people lived down in Tribeca. And hey, fish. And good morning, Mr. Pamphleteer or Miss Pamphleteer. And so trying this TV. So the TV show Coca Crystal started, and all she talked about was all the different kinds of buds and how to. She was like the Julia Child of cannabis, right? And then a girl I went to school with at NYU, her stage name was Annie Sprinkle. We were both studying anthropology, and she was studying sex workers like I studied indigenous people. And so she did performance art about sex, and she would have a half an hour where she would bring, sex workers on, and we'd basically have an orgy on television. And then Potato Wolf would have its little scripted, and we were like S to No. We had a show called Between the Lines, White Collar Criminals. I produced that. Everyone had the universal product code on their forehead, and it was after the corporate wars, and there were no nation states, just corporate states. And this is 1970, whatever, up until 1980 something. And I would just take the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, take stories straight out, and the Washington Post, take stories straight out, change the names to protect the innocent, and we would perform them. And, the Gary News and the Playboys had this song, Bubble-Headed Bleach Blonde. I had a girlfriend who was brilliant, and she was a psychologist. Again, met her at NYU. And so this is when I started having a course. It was me, about 5 women. And they all were really tight together. I was their boy. And I really liked it because on any one time, I'd be one of the other, but not all of them. So I would be eternally monogamous until, and it was still okay because we were still buddies. There was a time when we lived together. In the abandoned buildings on the south, near the South Street Seaport. So anyway, the TV show was that. And so I was really into tape recording, everything, audio, because I also had a radio show on WBAI. One of the shows was Who's in the Know? And the other one was, What do you want? So I could answer, what do you want? And the other one was art and technology with Al. Shows where I remember seeing. Hugh Hefner had a TV show on ABC where he was, you know, portraying his clubs, his house, the big house in Chicago. They had the grotto, and Sammy Davis would just kind of show up and sing songs. So, um, that's what my radio shows were like. And who wants to know? I would have whoever was on page 6 on the New York Post or whatever politician would come on, and I would have them as the star of the show, and I would have interesting people, and we'd have like in the WBAI, this little studio room like the size of this booth here, and I'd have a punch bowl with some real punch to it. Very tasty, because all you got to do, the secret to really good punch is orange sherbet, ginger ale, vodka, and a little sunshine. And loosen people right up. And what happened, why I got kicked off the air at WBAI was basically too many well-to-do people got a little bit too juiced and said things they shouldn't have. And that's what I wanted. I lasted about a year. So I was really big on videotaping things and audio taping things. And so I had this nice, small tape recorder this big, weighed about 4 pounds. And I put a necklace on it, and I put it around Chris Knowles' neck and had voice actors. When he started talking, the thing would start rolling, recording. And the whole libretto of both Robert's operas, Letters to Queen Victoria and Einstein on the Beach, came straight out of Chris Knowles' mouth on my tape recorder, right? And I kind of would write it and then give it to Robert. So I was part of his dance company. And I was his taking care of Chris guy, his electrician, his lighting designer, his physical therapist, and the fun guy. So before, he kind of ran out of money, so he started milking Chris's back because he got the power of attorney. This guy was worse than a car salesman. And so Robert Wilson, dance company. So he took the show on the road around America and went to rich people's little homes and haciendas. And we were in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, the city of gates. And basically, he got a telegram when we were at this rich guy. And he's like, we were like a collective, And this guy's talking about power, the rich guy. Worker needs rights, blah, blah, blah. And so, what I call liberal, right? What are liberals? People who feel guilty about being racist, selfish, and stupid. Right? So, he basically, Robbie gets this telegram from the Shah of Iran, who says, "Oh, I want you to come to Iran," and so Iran was the Persian Empire. Tehran was a very cultured place, and the Shah and Iran was also a very not particularly Islamic place. It was very modern, and so the Shah wanted to switch from traditional Persian art, the celebration, to modern European white people art. And so he wanted Robert to come and dance for this festival. And he offered Robert $1 million in the bank before he even got on the airplane, and all expenses paid. Right? And everybody who was in his company would get 10 grand. Right? So Robert, tells us this and says, "Okay, everyone on the bus who wants to be rich and famous." So I go, wait a minute. This is a collective. we all have to agree, And this, does anyone know who the Shah is? And I knew who the Shah was and what the Shah had done and blah, 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 blah. This guy's scum. He's like a CIA stooge. Da, 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 da. And so everyone listened. And then Robert said, everybody wants to be rich and famous, get on the bus. And everyone, even Beth, my girlfriend, got on the bus. So the bus leaves and leaves me alone, right? I got nothing, right? Not even a nickel in my pocket. And the rich guy who we were saying, who's, power to the people, he basically closes the gate on me and says, get lost or I'm calling the police. And it's like around 10 o'clock at night. And I had no money. And it was somewhat warm. It was kind of late spring, maybe, May going into June. And I walked down this road towards 25, which was the interstate from north to south, right? I had no idea where I was going to go. And I just kind of walked down, and I could see the highway for about 5 miles as I walked on this other road towards the interstate. There wasn't a car on it, but there was no light anywhere. And I looked up, and I'd never seen the stars like that. So I was just like, whoa, wow. And I felt happy. I felt amazingly good. I didn't have a nickel in my pocket, had no idea where the heck I was going, but I was like being, in front of God's showroom, And so I'm walking down, and I'm walking onto, the up ramp, and I'm on the south side, right, going towards Albuquerque. I said, might as well go to Albuquerque. I have no idea what it is or who's there. And I'd been there once with my dad because Kirkland was there.
Garlic bread. We still doing all right?
Good. So I basically was, and the sign says, it's against the law to, have a horse, hitchhike, walk, drive a bike, moped. Anyway, so I said, this, like 2 a.m, who cares? So I go down there, and as soon as I kind of get on there, I see some headlights coming towards me. I put out my thumb, and this car flies by me, and it's a Ford pickup, 1940 something, right? But it's bacon pink, as pink as pink can be. No, it's yellow. It's canary yellow, and so it flies by me, and then red lights, and then backs up. Get in. And this guy looks like me, like Santa Claus, like really guy, big white beard, and he's kind of Spanishy, Indian, right? And so we're flying down, and that was Senor Romero's, Dr. Romero's, and he was an itinerant scholar, and I followed in his footsteps. Anyway, I went down there, and his mother had died, and she had about in the Chicano neighborhood. She had about 5 old Spanish, houses, adobe houses with the Vega roofs and everything, and the inside little garden, and it had no electric, gas, plumbing, nothing, right? So we're driving down, and he goes, tells me the story why he's there. He's, his mom died, he's retired, he's got some money in the bank, and he thought he'd come back to the old homestead and take up where his mom, because his mom had a general store, and when people didn't have pay for food, that she'd give it to them, and they'd pay her later, if they ever paid her at all. So, was I supposed to get garlic bread with that?
Almost that one, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll take a little more hot water when you got time. So I go there with him, and I fix his everything. I wire the place. I plumb the place. I do everything, right? And in those days, they really didn't have per se building permits, or even codes. If you owned the property, you could do that work yourself. So I went down to the building guy, said, okay, give me all the paperwork I got these properties I want to fix up. And so I had Mr. because he's, Mr. Paperwork, so he filled everything out, and I wired, plumbed, so he got gas, water, electric, septic, everything, right? And when we were driving there, he said, if you do this for me, you can live in one of them for the rest of your life and you'll never go hungry. So I said, oh, that's a good deal. So, but I'm a young guy. I'm like 22 or so, give or take. And so I maybe 23 because so I fix everything up and I'm there and Dr. Romero's every night we make dinner. He's a great cook. We drink a bottle of wine. His mom had made wine for 70 years. So it's got all the wine in the universe. It's pretty good. Thanks, sweetie. Whoops. Yeah.
You done with that plate?
Yeah, I'm done with that one too. So and we play Go and chess and talk about philosophy. This guy's a brilliant guy. And if you ever, I have a novel all about our time together. Anyway, so after about a month after finished fixing everything, that took me about a month and a half. And now it's getting towards not quite, it's late summer. And I got a newspaper, and in Albuquerque, they have no buses. It's really rich people and everybody else, right? And you either have a car or you walk or you ride a bike. So I got a newspaper and I see this job. So I had some really terrible jobs. I worked as a concrete guy, and that was, oh my God. And then I worked as a car radio installer, and the guy paid you every 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks I didn't get paid at all. And so I had money to even, I was going to take a cab to work, but it was too expensive. So I had to walk 5 miles first. So I'd have to wake up at 3 and to get there at 7. And, didn't eat much. So I was hungry and tired. And the day I was supposed to get paid, I fell asleep in the trunk of this rich lady's Cadillac, putting speakers back there. And, she drove home with me. And when I woke up, there were bags of groceries. So I was eating the groceries when she opened up the trunk and found me in her trunk eating her food. So she called the police and they took me to the guy and he squared it with the cops. And he says, you're fired and you don't get a paycheck. So I had some really terrible jobs. And I sold vacuum cleaners, right? Anyway, so that was 1 month of really terrible jobs. And my boss said, listen, you're really skilled guy. He said, I found there's a place down, where the city and where the state has their employment agency up on the roof. There's a private one. Go there. So I did. I called him up, made an appointment, and that was Mr. Blue Bunny. And he got me a job as an electrician, working for Dick Powell Electric. And I went up there, and I go out, and this is big guy, and he looks like a bunny, and he's blue polyester suit, right? And he must weigh 500 pounds, right? And he goes, so you're an electrician? I go, yes. And so he throws on his desk, and it slides over to me. It says, Albuquerque State Master Electrician's License Test. And then I read, you got to, so many years of consecutive W-2s. You have to be an apprentice, a journeyman, and blah, blah, and all this. And you have to have a class 3 driver's license and ding. And I go, I don't have any of that. He goes, oh, no problem. Take the test. And so I go in the next room and I keep saying, but, it says here that I have to. It's take the test. So I just take the test. I come back and he looks, so there's the test and then there's a answer sheet that you scribble in the little things and then you write certain things in. And anyway, so he kind of looks, checks everything out. Says, this is pretty amazing. You're the first guy to get 100. And you must be a good electrician. You didn't make one mistake, and this is New Mexico Light, you know. So I said, well, you could look at it was an open book test. He goes, yeah, but you only had an hour and a half. And, I understand these licensing books. You got to know how to navigate them. It could have taken you more time to look up one answer, but you just knew how to look at it. Anyway, so he goes, you're the guy I'm looking for. And Mr. Bunny takes out his Polaroid, takes a picture of me, and then he says, I'm faxing you this guy's information and, his photograph. And you fax me back the license and all the paperwork. Okay? Okay. Then he gets on the phone and goes, I have a guy here needs a class 3, industrial, commercial, operating permit, federal stamp 2. And the lady goes, does he got a license? And he goes, you got a license? I said, no. He goes, no, doesn't make a difference. Just go see Madge. So I go down, and so he goes, when you get back, you'll have everything all ready, right? So I go down, a couple boxes where the DMV. I go see Madge. She isn't behind the desk. She's like in an office. She walks me down the hallway, takes me into a room, closes the room, and she has all the information kind of fudged in her computer. She sticks it in there, takes a picture of me, spits out my laminated driver's license, 2 of them, right? And one's a state, one's a federal, and it says that I legally can drive virtually, tractor trailer, Abrams tank, whatever, right? Crane, you can drive anything, right? So she goes, here you go. So I go back to Mr. Bunny. He goes, you get your license? I said, yes, sir, I did. He goes, well, give it to me. And he takes it and he kind of puts it in this nice little wallet, right? So he goes, okay, sign this contract. I signed the contract. He goes, okay. And I said, what did I just sign? He goes, well, I have a job for you that pays $33 an hour. And this is in 1973 when, average guys making $2 an hour, right? And people making really good money are making like $8 an hour. This is $33 an hour. You're going to go work for Big Pal Electric, right? And I'm going to take half of that salary. Tell them that, you're going to get, I'm going to get $17 and you're going to get 16, right? And I'm going to get this for a year and then you're on your own. Dick still likes you. You'll be getting that $33, but you're going to have your master's electrician's license. You'll be able to start a business here, right? You got this class 3 license, you're set, So just when I'm charging you is worth this, you are in the books, you are, in the federal books, you're in the state books, you are, and he had looked me up. He goes, I see that you had a little trouble in New York State. Well, this clears that. So I'm like, okay, $16 an hour is a lot better. And there's whatever overtime you get, it's all yours, right? So in overtime, I would get time and a half. So I go, and then he gives me, that nice little wallet thing, and in it is $500 and my little contract, and in there too. And he goes, you need some mad money. You got to go buy some work clothes and some work boots. And, you're going to need some money when you're there until you get your first paycheck. So there's $500, right? He called it mad money. So I said, okay. So I walk out and in the waiting room, there's this girl in a nurse's uniform, right? And she's got her own little wallet. And she's counting the money, and she's like, "It's $500." I said, "Yeah." I said, "So you just got a job too?" "Yeah, I'm going to be a nurse in a hospital." I said, "Oh, that's great." And said, "Did he get you?" He got me my license. Yeah, he hadn't finished nursing school. So I go, "Why don't we go out and celebrate?" So we do. That girl becomes my girlfriend. So first I work at Dick Powell's office, right? And I go, in the, so I meet Dick, and he has, on his desk a bunch of things. He's got a starter, he's got a couple of three-way switches and a couple of four-way switches, and he's got he's got a spool of spool and crimping tool and a screwdriver. And he goes, okay, wire. He draws a circuit diagram. He goes, wire that starter to these three-way and four-way switches, like and it's not like, he's got an electrical diagram, electrical engineering kind of. So, oh, no problem. So I said, so I'll just make it out in front of this desk, right? Not like all over the place, just right here, right? Set it up, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes fine. And so I kind of look around and said, okay. So I kind of, and he's got a little book of tags, right? So I take his little drawing, I make a few computations, I make a list of what wires I need and what they're going to be tagged as. And so, I take a look at the space, and so I cut X amount of wires this length, and I tag them, and I strip them off and put the forks on and crimp them and stick it all together. And then I take, and so this is a 220 starter. And so over there is a plug for a 220, right? So I basically open up the box, run wires from the lugs of the starter over to that, and have a ground and a neutral, wire it up, and like within 5 minutes I wire the whole thing, and then I hit the circuit breaker for that plug, and then I just hit the three-way switches at any point, goes on and off, on and off, on and off. He goes, okay, you're hired. She did that in 5 minutes. I couldn't do that in 5 minutes. I said, well, see, your money is worth it. So what you got me to do is what? You're going to go in the back of the shop and go into my father's shop, and he's got a project for you. And if you can do that, then you're really going to be my number one guy. I said, okay, no problem. So I go in there, I meet Grandpa, and like I said, this guy is like the Albuquerque version of the New York version of Grandpa Stahl, And both of these guys worked for Nikola Tesla. Grandpa Stahl worked in Tesla's lab in Hudson Street and in the Mohawk Electric Building. And this guy worked for Tesla when he did his Colorado experiments, right? So I told him about Grandpa Stahl, and he knew Grandpa Stahl. I said, yeah, you're going to be all right, kid. So he, we get on the blackboard, and he shows me this equation, and he shows me the transformer he wants to build. Big sucker. It's for the Air Force. It has to be tuned. And he goes, these people know how to tune a transformer. Yes, sir, I understand exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we do it. And like within a week, we build the sucker. I wind the whole thing. And, he's like, blind like me now, and he couldn't see anything. And I did everything just the way he wanted it. I laminated everything, just the way he wanted it, everything. And, he plugged it in, turned it in, tuned it up. It did exactly what it's supposed to do without even having to be tweaked. He says, yep, you're the guy. So about a week and a half of playing with that, and then another few days of bringing it to Kirkland and playing it with there. We go back to the shop, and I said, okay, Dick, what's and I never call him Dick. I call him Richard. So what, or boss. He says, we're going to go to Las Vegas, and we got a bunch of power work to do for Neon, and controls. So, oh, great. That sounds fun. So we spent 2 or 3 weeks there, and I had a great time. Went to all these shows, did all kinds of things, lots of cars. And all Richard did was stay in his room, get room service, and work on, designs. And, Richard was a dick, and he really did not have a good time. Anyway, so we did that, and he was very pleased with my work there, very meticulous. Everything worked. Nothing had to be troubleshooted. And so we get back to Albuquerque, and all this time I have a new girlfriend, and she loved the fact that I would just come back on Friday and leave Sunday. And so we would have Friday night, Saturday, Sunday day, And that all we would do is I cook for her. She always had really good boo, and all we did was make love. Right? And she was reading, the Kama Sutra. We tried everything, right?
I woke up and I went down to my
And so,
in the morning. And on Sugar Pond, they started blowing snow for the ski mountain. So it's even more colder, and all you hear outside is because they're blowing that snow, and it's what?
only in America.
Really?
So, it was an interesting,
I
right?
have not
So
either.
I said, okay, Richard, what's my next assignment? He goes, well, you're going to go out to Mount Taylor,
'Cause I ain't driving
where they're building the world's
Saturday.
deepest uranium mine. And they have some really exotic power needs and controls. And you're going to be the guy, So they're bringing 980 lines straight to this mine. And we're going to build a big distribution lot, those Tonka toy things, the transformers. And you're going to do that. And there's going to be this whole building that they're going to have their control center in it. They control everything, every fan, every pulley, every motor from there. And you're going to, oversee them. Basically, all the concrete work's done, all the pads are done. We have about 20 miles of 4 and 6 inch galvanized to put in these trenches on Kindorf. And, I see, you told me that you know how to use the Greenlee 880, which was this table to bend a piece of 4-inch 6-inch galvanized. Each one of those sticks, like a 4-inch piece of galvanized in 1973 cost $100. 6-inch was almost $200. You make a mistake. Whereas the Greenlee table, you put it on the table, you make some computations, you move these little knobs around, push the button, goes, and does it perfect. So you can do, 20 pieces of pipe, bend it the same way, right? So he goes, that's all you're going to do. You're going to oversee the job, and I'm going to give you a bonus, and you're going to get double overtime because you're going to be living out there. So you're going to be out there from Sunday to Friday. And so you'll get your 40 hours, and you'll get another 40 hours of double overtime. So, Mr. Bunny's going to get $17 for that first 40 hours. He's not going to get anything of that double overtime. So my paychecks once a week were like pushing $3,000, right? So, I'm out there, and it's almost not worth it because I'm living in a Quonset hut with about 20 other guys who are just drunk and high on, heroin. And I mean, it's just really worse than the army. And the food sucked and everything sucked. But my paycheck was, so that first paycheck, we went to Grants, New Mexico. I opened up a checking account with Albuquerque State Federal Savings and Loan, where they had banks everywhere. I said, you got banks everywhere in New Mexico? I go, yep, and some in Texas too. So, and they gave me a toaster. So I gave him my first check, which was about $3,500. And the lady goes, whoa. And I said, yeah, I'm on a checking account. Don't you want a savings account? And I said, what's the interest? She goes, 2%. And I said, yeah, start me up a savings account. I'll put a few dollars in there. But mostly, I said, don't you have an interest checking account? She said, oh, yes, we have one of those. I said, well, how much interest on the interest? Forget the savings. Just because, go for that. So I did. And I started it, and you didn't have to keep $5,000. You didn't have to start. We had to start with more than $3,000. So I started with 3,500, and I took 100, and I went across the street. All the buildings in Grants at the time were trailers. Even the freaking bank was a trailer. All you had to do to rob the bank was hook it up to your pickup truck and drive away with it. And so took $100, and we had these big coats that were basically sheep cut in half, gutted, turned inside out, and the free part was on the inside, and the skin part was on the outside. They were called lineman's coats, and they did keep you quite warm. So I wish I had one of those right now instead of John Birmingham having all my winter clothes. So anyway, so I worked there, and it was really so. That first check, I went with some guys. I didn't have a car, so these guys went in a van. and we got our paychecks on Thursdays, and so um, we, and they didn't have debit cards or anything like that, but I did have my checkbook. They gave me a checkbook, so and checks in those days were like cash, not a problem. Because if you wrote a check for more than $15, that was like 30 days in jail if you didn't have the money, if it bounced and you did it on purpose. But anyway, so we go across the street to this place, which is gas station, general store, supermarket, nightclub, prostitutes, barbershop, showers, auto repair. It was like the Sears of, it's kind of the Sears you would find in hell, right? And so I go in there, and I left my big coat um, in the van, right? Because we just kind of walked from the van 20 paces into the superheated, um, Sears and Roebucks from hell. Hell's pretty warm. I go in there, and I go into the store, and I buy myself cowboy pants, cowboy boots, cowboy hat, cowboy shirt, cowboy, kind of jacket. And you folks have a beautiful day.
Thank you too.
And so these girls come over and start chatting me up, and I'm thinking, boy, they like how I look in my cowboy outfit. No, they're prostitutes, and they want me to pay for services in the back. So I buy them a couple of drinks. We talk a little bit, and they realize I'm just a putz, and I don't even realize they're prostitutes. So they, there's nobody else here. They go back to the bar and smoke cigarettes and drink. And the guys I came with went straight to the bar and just started knocking them down. Boom, boom, boom. Where I went shopping, then I had a nice steak and dinner, and then I talked to the girls. And then this guy comes over and he goes, buddy, and he's laughing. I go, what's wrong? He goes, those guys you came with, they left you here. And I'm like 40 miles to where the mine, and it's snowing outside, and it's February, and it's a zillion degrees below zero, and I just have this like little cowboy shirt and cowboy jacket and jeans and cowboy boots. And anyway, so the guy goes, oh, don't worry about it. You can sleep. I have a trailer in town, and I work the mines, and they have a school bus, that takes everyone to the mines. So you work where do you work? I said, Mount Taylor. Oh, well, you got some drive over. You probably make it time for, roll call. And that's in these mines that have this roll call. That's how you start. It was like going to high school, having homeroom. And so, we go home, again, he's got some nice boo, and we smoke a little, drink a little beer, fall asleep. He wakes me up, and he's got a pair of overalls and some thermal underwear and gloves and nice socks. I got no shoes. You have to wear your cowboy boots. And so, and I got my cowboy hat, and I put my cowboy clothes in the paper bag, and I got a new friend in town, and he works for Gulf Mineral Oil at another mine. And so we got on the school bus and make it, back to Mount Taylor, and I walk into the building where we have roll call, and our supervisor is this black guy, right? He's from California, engineer, was in the Army, and then he was in the Navy, so he's Mr. Nuclear. We first nuclear bombs, and then reactors in the Navy. And so anyway, he's called the roll, and he's looking at this clipboard, and he's going through paper, and I go up to him, and he's reading this piece of paper, and I tap on the shoulder, and he kind of looks at me. This guy's a black guy, and he literally turns white and keels over, right? I go, Bob, what's wrong? What's wrong? I think he's had a heart attack. And he kind of puts his hand up and goes, you're dead, and falls back unconscious. And a piece of paper, and it's from the highway patrol, and there's more on the van, was doing like 190 down 42, and the mines would park their big earth movers, bulldozers, and all those gigantic things, front end loaders, on the side of the highway. And these morons plowed right in the back of one and turned themselves into jello. And they, my coat was in there covered in blood, and everybody was body or particular body part. And but they found my coat covered in blood, with my wallet in it, with my name in it, and all the rest. And so um, he got this thing from the highway patrol saying that I was one of the dead guys. And so when I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, here's my payment," um, he fainted. But then I told him the story, and the highway patrol guy was still there. So I got him. He got me. They put me, back in a highway patrol car, and he had my wallet with money in it, and I still had cash in my pocket. And I didn't take my wallet. Like I said, I put my wallet in my coat. I just put $100 in my pocket. That was more than enough. And first we go to the bank, and the lady said, "Yep, he opened up the bank account. Yeah, here he is." And she took my picture too. So see, there's a picture, and my picture was on my electrician's license and my driver's license. And he, went, called up on the radio to his place, and they got a what you call the fax of all the information, and then they faxed all that information to the office at the mine. And so pretty much that day, thank you, Darwin, they, figured out what it was and that I wasn't dead, and they marked me down as dead, and they gave me back. So none of it, because it happened, I got it all settled that day with the investigating officer. I didn't have to go through real headaches of paperwork. And so why doesn't any of their pens work? And so my pens always work. So from that point on, my nickname on the job was the Dead Guy. I'll take it back. This one doesn't work either. So So, that's how I got to work for Dick Powell. So after that, and there were 3 more of the times when they almost killed me. And that's when I called up Dick and said, "Listen, and I went back. I said, I've done everything you kind of need. The other big job is doing the distribution. And I'll do that, but I'm not working in the mine. Well, you've got these Mexican guys. They're really great. I'll work with them. But none of those white morons who are drugged out as well. You're the only real guy I got there on my paycheck. All the other guys, I'm not paying for. The mining company pays for those guys." So anyway, I spent another month with the Hispanic folk, and we moved, we camped. But by that time, I met Grandpa David, who was a Hopi elder, and I lived with him. And again, you have to go and find that story. One day I'll pay. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so that's how I then. So he then sent me off to first Los Alamos, then San Dias, and then Kirkland, where I had the story I said last night about how I got out of there. Right? So an hour and 9 minutes, another few more minutes. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Boo-ba-doo-boo-boo. Let's see, Alan. Hey, Pamphlet. Good morning, everyone. Can't stay. Have most wonderful day today. Make the most of it. That's right, Pamphleter. Fish. Morning. Hayden. God lives in Tax Haven. Yep. Alan boogied off. And Banana says, what does Banana have to say? Oh, wow. Yep. So, and that's my life. I have, people, well, you've had this amazing life. Well, it's only because I don't make any plans and everything just works out. And I'm always right where I'm supposed to be. And I am awake enough to say, oh, I should go do this. So whoever shows up to take me on a road trip, I'm there. And we will have the most amazing time. So the weather is going to be 40s during the day and 20s at night. It's going to start to get a little cold. So, so I will say au revoir. Yeah, in about 30 seconds when it's 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. And thanks for everything. Anybody who wants to leave something at my PayPal, go to the dude awake 42 at Gmail and put it in PayPal. Anybody who wants, go to my xratted.blogspot.com, Griot Publishing, GRIOTTE Publishing. And there you go. That's everything. I love you guys. More thumbs up. You got 5 for 5 right here. And also, go read my stuff. Pass the word. We need more cadre. And get that dartboard. Start looking at those past shows, and start putting them down on a hard drive, thumb drives. Dragon did that and sent it to me, and then somehow it mysteriously left my bedroom. So, or I'll find it. I mean, that's how things are, right? When you're a homeless guy, it's real easy to misplace stuff. We get stuck in the car or in a box someplace, or so. I don't necessarily blame or charge anyone in particular, unless they show me, when John Boy put those photos of my grandparents and read a personal letter my grandfather wrote to my grandmother, or my great grandfather wrote to my great grandmother. That was a bit beyond the pale. And he hasn't taken, I asked him to take it down, hasn't taken it down. So, but John's been, I haven't been with John for 170 something days, 78 days. And in those 178 days, I went to visit him twice and didn't last more than 12 hours. First time, he kicked me out after 6 hours. The second time, about 4 or 5 hours. So I don't understand. But anyway, that's how it is. I love you all. Next time I'm Mom, is the next wherever I am at where there's Wi-Fi. So you stay well, be good. God bless. Okay. Boop, 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 boop.